If you believe in the devil and demons and a host of fallen angels who followed Lucifer in the unwarranted wanting of the worship intended for the creator of all things, drop one of them little purple devil emojis down below in the comments after you subscribe and like the video after you watch it, because you're going to like it. My question for those who do subscribe to such a character, whatever you think he looks like, wherever you think he came from. My question to you, if you believe in devil and demons, who is the source that sustains and gives life to the devil and demons? Can you answer that for me in the comments below? Just help me understand. I'm not being condescending. I would just like to know where the confusion is coming from, because we know by now that there is but one source of life, the author and sustainer of all life. All living things originate from the living creator, right? So my question to you is, who is the author and sustainer of evil? Another question, what is evil? If we defined evil tonight, it could be accurately defined as the absence of good. Evil. So right in the definition of what evil is, we're presented with the impossibility of evil being anything other than an illusion. We're presented with the impossibility of evil being a true creation that is and forever will be. Because we've already talked about this. We've already discussed that everything that is, everything that really exists is good. And it is sustained by a good creator and source from within. So if we're looking at anything and we're under the notion that it's not good, we're either one, being deceived by the legion of voices within, thinking that we know something that we're misled by or misled about, or we're looking at something that's not real. Anything that's not good is not real. Anything that is not eternal is not real. Do you understand? Animism is the oldest religion said to be, pre-existing any documentation or organization of any type of religious precepts or concepts. And animism is literally the belief or the acknowledgement of all things being sustained from within by a universal divine source. There's an element of God in the rocks. There's an element of God in the water. There's an element of God in the clouds. There's an element of God in humans. There's an element of God in everything that you see, down to the plants and the blades of grass and the dirt that it grows from. And that is a beautiful picture of what it is to exist inside of God, inside of the creation. All creations must reflect the Creator. And if all things were created by one Creator, then all things have but one reflection when seen accurately. Get out of here. What is evil other than the things that you create and empower with your belief and attention? Everything that you have labeled as evil and experienced as evil and felt as evil is truly, in reality, non-existent. But your belief in your partnership in its existence, your attention given to it, your fear of it, you running away from it, actually takes you to it, because that's the design of your nature. Anything you give your attention to, you speak and ask a universal divine God to provide for you, and anything you ask is provided for you even before you ask, whether you know it or not. This is not about your opinion. This is not about your beliefs. This is not about the way you think things are or should be. We're talking about truth. We're talking about the iron rod of the universal design of all things. So how do I determine if the reality of a thing is good? Is that not the conversation we're always having endlessly on the inside of ourselves? Judging and critiquing whether the thing that we are looking at or being presented with is good or not. So here's how we eliminate the endless chatter of such a conversation: by coming to terms with truth once and for all, that if it is in front of me and it is something that cannot be removed, it is something that is not temporal, then it is good. Whether it is operating as good or not, whether it is, by my opinion or my perception, good or not. If it is something that is in front of me that is temporal, it is something in front of me that is not real. So what are some things that we can think of? Some things that we are partnered with, some things that we have extreme attachments to that are temporal, meaning they're not real. Because anything that is not eternal is not real, which is why you are, but your physical anatomy, your body, the temporal vessel that you are familiar with when you look upon a mirror, is not real. Money is not real. The special relationships that you rely upon and that you carry and design your life around the caterance to are not real. Sickness and disease that often leads you to extreme fear, depression, anxiety, worry is not even real. It comes and goes. It's temporal. There are medicines and medical practices that can be used to counter and reverse the disease that you have been told exists within you. So if it can be taken away, if it can exist and then not exist, it's not real. Because everything that is real exists forever. Like you and me. The common issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, not real. Your emotions, the ones that fall, rise, take you to the left, take you to the right, feel really, really good when things are going well or as you want them to go. And don't feel so good when things go counter the way you think or thought they should have happened. Your earthly possessions. You know how you can lose stuff? If you can lose it, it's not real. The hard work that you put in to getting to the places and having the things that you have. Remember all of those long nights and all of those early mornings that you can't ever get back to? They weren't real. Your ambitious pursuits, the ones that change, the ones that shift, the ones that develop, they're not real. You of everything we just listed on that list, but if we also take an assessment of the things that we have thought were real and the things that we devote our time and attention to, it's everything on that list. You devote your time and attention to the pursuit of money. You devote your time and attention to your ambitious pursuits. You devote your time and attention to the special relationships that you acquire and desperately claw to keep. You definitely devote your time and attention to your physical anatomy. You stay in the mirror. So clearly we're getting a picture of why we run from truth, why we're afraid to partner fully with truth. It's going to cost you your partnership and attachments to all those illusions that you love and embrace. It's going to cost you your norm, your familiar. And you don't like being in the realm of foreign. You say you love to go out of the country. And most of the people that say they love to go out of the country don't even have a passport yet. And where I'm from, if they do have a passport, it's probably because they took a cruise to the Bahamas or something and just didn't want to get left behind by the family. We don't like being in foreign situations because in foreign situations, we're left to silence a familiar voice that's leading us to a familiar place of anxiety. You've been running from the light because the light exposes the nothingness of everything that you have weaved together in the darkness. If you ever seen how hideous it was, you take your hands off of it. But as long as you stay in the dark and you can't see the monstrous creation that you're fashioning, you'll continue to piece it together and put it together blindly under the impression that you're building something of value and worth, that you're building something beautiful. Because when you follow your emotions, you are in the rear of the picture of the blind leading the blind. Your emotions can't see. Your emotions have no direction. Your emotions have no foundation in truth. Your emotions have no connection with the divine. They're temporal. So again, they aren't real. They're something that you experience. They're a phenomena. They have a purpose, a good one. Like I say, they're signals, they're indications, they're sideline coaches. But we throw our feelings on the field and we dictate and live our lives as if our emotions could be our guards. Oh, I feel something funny about that person. Yeah, probably because that person is taking you into a realization of a version of yourself that you have never acknowledged, let alone knew about. Maybe you don't want that person out from in front of you because they're so bad, or because they don't know how to act, or because they weren't raised correctly. But maybe you're looking at what it looks like to be in front of you. And we can drop the maybe because we already know everything in this world is a reflection of us. Most definitely the people that we come across. The light exposes the nothingness of the darkness. The light exposes the nothingness of the dark. And for us, that is liberation. That experience of coming into the knowledge of knowing for certain, finally, that everything I do in that dark room leads to nothing, enables me to stop recreating the dysfunction of going in the dark room under the impression that I'm going to come out with something of value. Do you not understand human nature? You wouldn't do anything if you didn't think that it had value for you, or it wasn't going to take you to your desired outcomes for yourself, which is why it's crazy to be under the impression that you love another person and you're extending yourself freely to another person if you are devoted to your own selfish desires. You will do anything to anybody in the wrong moment of desperation to accomplish what it is that you want for yourself. You will sacrifice the very people that you say you are on the pursuit of ambition for. Because when we get a goal in our head, when we see ourselves with something, or we see ourselves in a particular place, anything short of that becomes torturous in hell. It becomes the place that we have to identify that we have fallen short and did not deliver. And we never, from the place of the ego, make that statement. We just move the marker. We give excuses and justifications for why it's not done yet. We blame other people. We shift blame. You think to see the nothingness of the dark is death, but to see the nothingness of the dark will cause you to put down all of your death toys and experience life renewed for the first time. And what we're looking at is the idiocracy of what it is to be a sleeping human being. You and I have been under the impression that we can put polar opposites together and they will be cohesively cooperating pieces in our life. You have been under the impression that a good God who designed an amazing heaven filled with mansions, a paradise of worship and praise, also is a God who weaved such a place called hell. And you have a 50-50 chance of ending up in either one based on the conditions set by an unconditional God. And when you don't stop to assess what it is that you've been under the impression of, you'll find yourself running from things that are laughable. You've built your life around the unreal things that you obsess over, but yet you're under the impression that everything is real about you. Listen, there are two groups of people that believe in things that are not real. So if you believe in things that are not real, you fall in one of these two or both of these categories. Now, be real. It may not feel too good right away, but the liberation that you'll experience, the freedom, the peace, and the joy on the other side of acknowledging what we're looking at, something you never experienced in your life. So it's worth it. So just be cool. Take a deep breath. You're gonna be okay. So the two groups that believe in things that are not real: one, children; two, fools. Now, both of these parties have their own category, but it's the shared ignorance and absence of awareness to truth that allows for them to operate as children and fools. So when somebody asks you, are you a child or are you a fool? If you want to answer the question accurately, you need to unbiasedly assess your partnership with things that are not real. And if you have partnerships, attachments even, to things that are not real, you are either a child or a fool or a foolish child. If you don't have such attachments to things that are unreal, then you have matured in righteousness and operate from a standpoint of truth. I love that for you. But even if you have not developed that level of maturity spiritually, it's okay, because Scripture gives us the peace of knowing that God is always with children and fools. So you don't have to dodge being a child or being a fool, because in acknowledgement of being a child or a fool, you're also acknowledging that God is with you. And you can see that in your life. Because how long have you partnered with things that were not true? You've been under that impression for a long time. And the whole time, while you were at enmity with God and all of his creations, under the impression that it was something that you could create that was better, God was right there, sustaining you, giving you life, extending himself to you, impressing himself upon you, and constantly allowing for you to see glimpses of him, even in the midst of your own chaos. There is a way that seems right to a man and woman, and it does lead to death and destruction. And the wages of sin are death, because everything that you've experienced in your life that you've obsessed over and had attachments to on that list that we looked at, and the things that we didn't even cover, have robbed you of your true life. They've robbed you of the knowledge of knowing God and the one who he sent. You haven't had any true knowledge of I am within you. You haven't had any true knowledge of the original source and creator of all things. You haven't had any knowledge of the connection, the divine connection that you eternally have with everyone else. And that's death. You've been living a life outside of the awareness of true life. That's death. I know you got a definition for death that includes a coffin and going 6 feet under and laying in front of a bunch of people that didn't even call or text you when you were breathing. But that's not the true definition of death. That's the picture of a transition from one state to another as you have left the body. Eternal life is to know the Father and the one whom he sent, the Son, to know I am, to know Source, to experience life in abundance, to have everlasting peace and everlasting joy. That's life. And if that's not what you've been living, that's death. See, things in the kingdom either are or aren't. There is no in between. There is no gray area. The gray area is something that you created, and something that you created can be refashioned and reformatted just like this. So is it real or not? Based on the terms that we learned earlier. Everything that's been plaguing you, every problem that you've been obsessing over, it's not even real. Your fears, they aren't even real. Lock in.